I'm John Dyer V,
And I'm Melanie Keller.
with NewsWrap, a summary of some of the news in or affecting LGBTQ communities around the world for the week ending June 26, 2021. The heads of 17 European Union member states signed on to a letter this week demanding that Hungary immediately repeal its new No Promo Homo bill. The measure passed last week bans all discussion of sexual orientation and gender fluidity in schools. It also prohibits such material from television programs that minors could see, which essentially means any positive discussion of queer people on TV, period. The bill was pushed by increasingly autocratic Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Luxembourg's out Prime Minister Xavier Bettel joined letter signatories German Chancellor Angela Merkel, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, French President Emmanuel Macron, and the other 13 government leaders. They addressed the heads of major EU institutions just ahead of the bloc's two-day summit. It was reportedly an acrimonious gathering, with Orban playing defense against withering criticism from a number of EU officials. Luxembourg's Bettel remarked that we have a lot of young people who commit suicide because they don't accept themselves as they are. Being gay is not a choice, but being intolerant is a choice, and I will stay intolerant to intolerance, and this will be my fight today. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte even suggested that Hungary should leave the EU if it doesn't agree with its core values. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called the Hungarian law shameful. She said the EU's executive is considering legal action because it violates fundamental EU values. The only member of the 27-nation bloc to support Hungary as a defender of traditional Christian values was Poland, whose dictatorial president Andrzej Duda and Hungary's Orban appear to be in an unspoken race to the homophobic bottom.
Swimming near that bottom, Poland's education minister condemned this week's annual Warsaw LGBTQ Pride March as an insult to public morality. Przemysław Czarnek saw the colorful costumes and bedazzled drag queens and asked on a state-run news channel, "Are they normal people in your opinion?" Thousands of those not normal people marched through the Capitol on June 19th in defiant opposition to the rising tide of homophobia that has enveloped Poland under President Andrzej Duda. The Equality Parade kicked off at Warsaw's Palace of Culture to the beat of dance music amidst a sea of waving rainbow flags. COVID-19 scuttled Warsaw's in-person Pride events last year, so this year's parade was especially boisterous. In its early years, the parade was canceled twice by the mayor as an unacceptable promotion of homosexuality, but things do change. Current Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski led this year's procession to the cheers of spectators in sidewalk cafes and on apartment balconies along the route. However, President Duda has the support of a majority of lawmakers and the influential Roman Catholic Church. Almost 100 local governments have condemned so-called LGBT ideology and declared themselves to be LGBT-free zones. And, as with Hungary, EU officials are increasingly critical of escalating homophobia in Poland.
Istanbul's governor has banned the 19th annual LGBTI+ Pride March for the 7th consecutive year, again in the name of public security and good order. That's the same crap this year, as organizers put it in a tweet. They added defiantly that on June 26th, queer people will find each other on the streets and celebrate our honor. That appears to be what's happening per their Twitter feed as we record this newscast. The Turkish capital's once vibrant Pride Parade drew tens of thousands from around the region in what was the largest such gathering in the Muslim world. Celebrations have been at best muted since increasingly dictatorial President and former Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan first took power in 2003.
Canada's House of Commons handily passed a bill this week that outlaws conversion therapy. The vote was 263 to 63. The measure bans discredited methods to turn queer people straight for all minors and coerced adults. It criminalizes anyone profiting from or advertising the debunked practice. The Senate's approval is expected. Liberal Party Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made the conversion therapy ban part of his campaign platform. Meanwhile, the government of Norway announced this week that it would be introducing a bill to ban the practice. The Local reports that when the draft has been finalized, it will be submitted for a period of public consultation before its expected passage by Parliament.
A gay widower in Hong Kong has won a second judicial verdict in the High Court. Henry Lee Yik Ho had been denied the right to stay in the government-subsidized home he shared with his late spouse. Justice Anderson Chow Ka Ming again rejected the Housing Authority's policy as oppressively unfair over the government's challenge to his original September ruling. Lee and Edgar Ng Han Lam legally wed in London in 2017. Ng committed suicide in December 2020. Housing officials refused to treat Lee the same as a heterosexual widow or widower to whom ownership of mutually shared property would be automatically transferred. The lawsuit demanding equal treatment of same-gender couples in the allocation of public housing was first filed in 2019. It also challenged laws that deny the inheritance of property and other proceeds to the surviving spouse of a legally wed same-gender couple. Justice Chow declared both policies unlawful and unconstitutional violations of the equality provisions in the city's mini-constitution, or Basic Law, and in the Hong Kong Bill of Rights. In related news, the Swiss government has officially announced its support for marriage equality in an upcoming referendum. Parliament passed the legislation, but opponents gathered enough signatures to force the issue to a public vote. Polling consistently suggests that the September referendum will overwhelmingly endorse Parliament's passage of marriage equality.
U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs Secretary Dennis McDonough announced this week that the government would be offering gender confirmation surgery to transgender veterans through its health care coverage. Mental health services and hormone therapy are already available, but surgery has not been covered until now. National Center for Transgender Equality Executive Director Mara Kiesling applauded the move in a statement that read, "Every veteran deserves to have access to the health care they need, and the VA is working to make sure that includes transgender veterans as well." Meanwhile, Louisiana's Democratic Governor John Bel Edwards made good on his promise to the Republican-controlled state legislature, proclaiming that, as I have said repeatedly, discrimination is not a Louisiana value. He emphatically vetoed a ban the trans in sports bill this week. There are enough votes in the legislature to override Edwards' veto, according to the Associated Press. However, the current session is over, and lawmakers would have to call a special session to take an override vote. That would be a first since the state constitution was adopted in 1974.
The first gay British banknote went into circulation this week. The Alan Turing £50 note features a portrait of the World War II code-breaking hero and father of computer science and artificial intelligence. Turing was infamously prosecuted for private, consensual adult gay sex in the early 1950s. He chose a sentence of chemical castration over prison time and committed suicide a few years later. He has since been offered a posthumous government apology and was royally pardoned by Queen Elizabeth II.
But finally, even a Turing £50 note won't get you certain beers at New York's world-famous Stonewall Inn. Current co-owners Stacey Lentz and Kurt Kelly are supporting the Keep Your Pride campaign this Pride weekend. The action targets 5 companies that advertise their support during Pride but contribute to anti-queer lawmakers. The National Institute on Money and Politics revealed that beer maker Anheuser-Busch contributed more than $35,000 between 2015 and 2020 to 29 legislators described as anti-LGBTQ. Most of those recipients are anti-trans bill pushers. A company response defends its clear role to play in bringing real change and creating an inclusive and equitable world where we cherish and celebrate one another. In Stonewall Inn co-owner Lentz's words, "You can't turn your logo rainbow on social media, call yourself an ally, and then turn around and make donations that fuel hate." Queer favorites of the St. Louis-based beverage conglomerate include Budweiser and Bud Light, Michelob Ultra, and Stella Artois. Lentz said, "As a business owner, it's never easy to stop selling a product that affects your bottom line, especially during the busiest weekend of the year. But I'm an activist above all else, and we at the Stonewall Inn know we bear a unique responsibility to call out hypocrisy when we see it. Anheuser-Busch and other companies must do better.
That's NewsWrap, global queer news with attitude, for the week ending June 26, 2021. Follow the news in your area and around the world. An informed community is a strong community.
NewsWrap is written by Greg Gordon, edited by Lucia Chappelle, produced by Brian DeShazer, and brought to you by you.
Help keep us in ears around the world at thiswayout.org, where you can also read the text of this newscast and much more.
And you can read the transcript and listen to NewsWrap each week by subscribing to our This Way Out radio channel on YouTube. For This Way Out, I'm Melanie Keller. Stay healthy.
And I'm John Dyer V. Stay safe